The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host and or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of the host and or Paranormal Buzz Radio and or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is prohibited. Paranormal Buzz Radio will not be held responsible for you holding your knees, crying, and rocking in a corner in a puddle of your own urine, or being beheaded by a group of children in a cornfield. In fact, if you come across a group of children in a cornfield, we promise to make fun of you as you run away screaming in terror. Listener discretion is advised.
The Cryptid Files is a weekly discussion and debate covering all things cryptid. We at the Cryptid Files are working to bring you groundbreaking info and interviews from researchers in the field, as well as data and accounts from our own experiences. We are seekers of the mysterious and the unknown. We want to believe. Do you?
Emergency. This is Kyle speaking. How can I help you? Hello?
Something just ran in front of us down the road. We're in the ditch. We rolled over.
How many people are in the car, and is anyone injured?
There's two of us. I don't think we have any injuries.
Is the car on its top or wheels or what?
No, it's kind of sitting on its side.
Hold one moment, please, while I contact emergency services.
Okay.
Okay, the state police should be on their way in a few minutes. Is everyone still okay?
Yeah, I think we're okay.
What ran in front of you? A deer?
I don't know what the hell it was, but it was big. It looked like a great big dog. Standing up.
Was it a bear, maybe?
Maybe. Oh my God.
Sir? Hello? Are you still there? Sir?
And welcome to the Cryptid Files.
Good evening, everybody. How are you tonight?
I'm John.
I'm Cindy. We're your hosts for the Cryptid Files radio show. I hope everyone's having a great Saturday and a great holiday weekend. But tonight we are discussing a pretty terrifying and enigmatic subject.
Yeah, you would think that Bigfoot was scary.
And rightly so.
Well, and rightly so. But the one we're going to talk about is man's best friend. And he's another hide-and-seek champion of the world. So I think we should introduce Dogman to the topic tonight.
Yes. We are going to be talking about Dogman. We're going to get the 101 on the Dogman. We are also going to talk about accounts, a few who have personally reached out to us, and a couple that we're going to go over that are already on the web. So it should be a pretty interesting evening. We would really love to hear from you guys. We really love you to join us in chat. We also do have a call-in line now. So if you guys want to reach out to us and share your story or just speak about what we're discussing tonight, you can. And our Skype line is 706-522-1758. Again, 706-522-1758. We would love to hear from you guys.
Sorry about that. Or if you want to get a hold of us another way, you can get a hold of us through email, which is gacryptocrew@gmail.com.
You can also hit us up on Instagram. We have an Instagram page for the show, for the Cryptid Files, and it is, again, GA Crypto Crew. So look us up on there, throw us a couple likes, and follow us. That'd be great. You can get in touch with us there and share some experiences, not just with Dogman, because we want to hear everything. So it runs the gambit. Whatever cryptid you've come into contact with or encountered, we'd love to hear your story, and we'd love to read it on the show. So we are taking stories. You can be anonymous, or you can even call in. So just get in touch with us, contact us, and let us know. So with that, we are going to get into this very interesting subject. I want to say hi to everybody in chat so far. Hello. Hey, Judy, how are you? And
Judy,
Shay, hi.
Matt, I think is
Matt,
in there.
yeah, I think Matt's there too. Hello, guys. We want to know your thoughts on Dogman, so hit us up. And if you have any questions, we're going to dig into this. We're going to get to know about this very interesting, very scary sounding cryptid.
So he is a large, or she is a large cryptid, but not as big as Bigfoot. There are some stories of getting upwards of 13 feet tall with Dogman.
Yeah.
But on the average, he's probably between 7 to 8 feet tall.
Yeah, even 6 to 7 depends. But he is massive. It is massive by all accounts, and there's a history with this cryptid as well. You know, as there is with Bigfoot. This guy does have some history, and it goes back pretty far. It actually goes back into the 15th century, I think.
Yeah, I think it was, from what I read, it was either the 14th to 17th, somewhere in there,
Right.
or the 15th to 17th century.
And it dates back to French legend, and actually the werewolf in France, which was called the loup-garou. And it's amazing that it goes back that far and that you can trace it back. There are, a lot of opposing views on this, on what Dogman actually is, and what the origin of the Dogman is. And there are some very crazy stories about it. But if you go with the history from France, it is, for all intents and purposes, a werewolf. It goes by many names, though, around the world. He's known as Wolfman. He's known as the loup-garou, which is the Cajun legend from Louisiana. The loup-garou in French. The Michigan Dogman, which I'm pretty sure, if you know anything about cryptids, you've heard of the Michigan Dogman, as well as the Beast of Bray Road. And not surprising, a werewolf, lycanthrope, mushka, which is a Native American word, and the list goes on and on. There are many obscure words for these animals, but it's a global phenomenon. It's not just in our country or on our continent. This has been seen everywhere, so it's pretty mysterious still. Even though there are so many sightings, we still don't know a lot about it.
So Matt in the chat was just saying the loup-garou or the rougarou sounds like a male.
It does. That does, actually. The people in Louisiana, the Cajun people, they, I think, adapted it from probably their French roots.
Probably some sort of slang or something.
And like I said, the French, it was loup-garou, but in Louisiana, it's the rougarou, which is very Cajun sounding, and it's supposed to have come from a spell of a witch, and basically the person that's under the spell is under the spell for 101 days, according to one legend. And that also that legend was brought over from France, but people really do believe this. They also believe that you're stuck with the spell unless, in another account or another historical view, is that you're stuck with the spell unless you transfer it over to another person.
Like a werewolf.
Like a werewolf. So maybe that's where the legend of the werewolf, came about. Maybe it was born from a Dogman or a rougarou. Maybe that's where if you kind of trace all these legends and our movie monsters back, you'll find that there is a connection between some sort of truth, in my opinion. So maybe that's where it came from. Like,
underworld.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people, interestingly enough, a lot of people say that when they see a Dogman, their physical report is, it's very shocking. But they say the only way they can really explain it and to really kind of get people to understand what they saw is it looks very much like the werewolves from the Underworld movies, which is, that's pretty scary.
And when they stand up coming from quadrupedal to bipedal, the bones crack and pop
Yeah, they absolutely
as they
do.
stand up.
Well, speaking of them being global, there are reports from South America, down in, I think, in Brazil. There are, of course, reports from Canada and the U.S., not surprising. The U.K., which is, the hound of the Baskervilles. Germany, there are reports, I've heard a couple of actual first-hand reports from Germany and Romania. So I think that's pretty cool that they are also being spotted in the land of the vampire. So that's pretty cool.
Vampires.
Yeah. So there is this strange link between these supposed creatures and Romania.
Well, why don't we get to some of the things? I'll start with one. Yes, I actually did some research because I normally never do. So a little tidbit that I found, and I thought it was pretty cool, was the earliest known Dogman sighting was in 1887.
In the U.S.
In the U.S. In 1887, the first known Dogman encounter was documented in Wexford County, Michigan. Two lumberjacks were out in the woods when they spotted a creature they described as having a body of a man but the head of a dog. Other sightings began to trickle in throughout the upper peninsula of Michigan, and locals found dog tracks in the dirt around several deceased horses. The horses allegedly perished of fright. What are you doing? What?
Sorry.
Did I do something?
No, did I do something?
No, I have no idea.
Well, I think, okay, so you're that account you're done with. That's interesting.
I kind of got ahead of things, but that's okay.
But that's good. That's the first documented case in the U.S. That's documented. That doesn't mean there weren't more. That just means that this one is recorded, which is interesting. I think anyone that knows anything about Dogman, as far as the cryptid world goes, also knows, hi J-Ron, also knows that
Hey J-Ron.
The Michigan Dogman is probably one of the most well-known accounts of Dogman
in the United States.
Maybe the world. I'm sure other people, from other countries do know about the Michigan Dogman.
Yeah.
It's pretty well known. I was even surprised to find out that the accounts from Michigan go back that far.
Well, I want to bust in here real quick, and I just want to tell a quick little story. I was talking to my father one day about Dogman, and he seemed to have the answer, as most fathers do anyways, right? Mm-hmm. But he told me that he was once talking to a Native American, and I know him as well, and he was telling my father about Dogman. Dogman was actually something like more of a curse, and he was born this way,
right?
And it was like a bad sign to the tribe.
Right.
So what they did is they took this dog baby person, whatever it was, and just shunned it and got rid of it. And they believe over time it had mated with another dog person or wolves or whatever the case might have been. This is what happened.
That became what it is. Yeah, and that makes sense. I know I've heard accounts from Native Americans of them having to, live not really with these beings, but to have to, be in the same space as them at certain times. And they were very weary of them. And, accounts of them also warring with Sasquatch as well, which we actually saw a little video on YouTube last night doing research. It was an animated video of a Sasquatch and a Dogman coming to blows.
Yeah.
And I was not aware that the Dogman studied martial arts. Evidently he does.
Well, I mean, they were like MMA. They were missing just the octagon, and it would have been perfect.
They were like flip kicking and just bashing each other's heads in.
Yeah, the Dogman was doing capoeira. It was kind of funny. He was like dancing around and he was fighting.
It was entertaining though.
Yeah, it was entertaining.
Yeah, unfortunately, Bigfoot I think lost in the end.
I thought Bigfoot had him there.
I thought he did, but that's the way it
Dogman
goes.
just kept sitting up like the Terminator.
He scratched his face off basically.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Bigfoot was much bigger. But again, this is this animation. We also did see a pretty funny video that this maniacal man posted of a Dogman that broke into his barn. Mm-hmm. So he decided to set up.
It was the best video of an animatronic I have ever seen. And this guy is like really 100% behind this.
He really is.
He saw a Dogman and he captured it.
Guys,
captured video in his barn of this thing. Now, I didn't realize that Dogman, before he enters the window, he can take the window apart from the inside while he's standing outside.
He wasn't even standing. He was like floating outside.
Okay. And then he's got a really cool entrance. He uses either dry ice or a fire extinguisher before he enters the window. So it was really, really cool. He's got one hell of an entrance.
It's, we're going to have to post the link to that one because that is just, it's too funny, guys. Mm-hmm. It's too funny. It's not quite what I would think the Dogman looks like. Oh no,
honestly, this Dogman looked like he hasn't bathed in about 100 years.
It's not even good, guys. It's not. It's a really bad animatronic from like a 1980s fun house at an amusement park. It's so bad. Mm-hmm. It's so bad. But it was funny. It was definitely funny. We went way down the rabbit hole last night. So
I just want to jump in here real quick. Judy says in chat, my mother says, was this one of your father's tales? The one I just told? Yes, it was one of my father's tales. Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, sometimes Dogman is spotted with or without a tail. Am I right?
That's true. Yeah. That's true. And there are different people who will say there are different classes or groups or subsets of Dogman and Bigfoot. And
some people say there's two different groups, and then in those two different groups, in the main one group, there's only three classes.
Classes, three
and then
subsets.
In the second,
there's
four, and I don't know. Whatever. It sounds like Dungeons and Dragons to me.
But we're going to talk about the classic of all those. Now, the physical appearance of these things is pretty upsetting. Now, I'll go in to say that a lot of people who have, not a lot, every person that has an encounter or sees these things, first of all, the one common denominator in all of this is the fact that they are terrified beyond belief, which, if you're sitting and staring at this thing that you have no idea what it is, where it came from, it's pretty terrifying. But they have a sense of abject fear that consumes them, and it stays with them long after the encounter. Most encounters are of just them seeing these things. There aren't a lot of them actually attacking. But then again, as I've said before, if this thing's going to attack you, we're not going to have an account.
No.
Because you're not going to be here anymore.
No.
So there's that. It seems to me that they want to incite fear.
Yeah.
And they maybe feed off the fear, but these people are affected, gravely affected, just deeply affected by these encounters. None of them are pleasant. They might not be threatening at the time, but they're very horrifying. This guy is, like we said, these beings, because I don't want to call them animals, are anywhere between 5 to 7, 8 feet tall on an average.
Because we haven't heard of too many big ones, like 14 foot.
Only maybe one or two accounts.
Maybe one or two accounts.
And I've heard a lot of accounts. They are. Yeah, it depends. It varies as far as the facial features and what they look like. Yep. But the elongated snout, and some people say like a German Shepherd snout. The ears are on top of the head and point up. They're always up, but they kind of turn inward at the top. Like they have points that turn inward. The eyes are usually dark, but they glow red. And this is a big part of it. These encounters, people, one after the other, report these glowing red eyes, not just a reflective glow, but an actual glow. And I think we spoke about that a little bit last week.
Mm-hmm.
And another time we'll really get into the science of the ability for these animals to actually emit light. But their eyes glow a red or an amber, sometimes yellow, but usually it's a red or an amber.
Yeah, you usually hear red or amber. Yep.
And that's from truck drivers, from people on hikes, campers, hunters, people in their backyards, people at parks.
And you know what I think it is, though? My opinion, just my opinion. Animals' eyes tend to reflect light anyways. So I think normally when they see these things, they have a flashlight. Most of the time, have a flashlight, and the eyes actually do reflect red back. If you ever take a cat or a dog outside, or even just driving down the street and you see a set of eyes on a deer or something, you tend to see a little bit of red.
But the odd thing about it is that a lot of these accounts are people, children, who are in the bed, it's dark, there are no lights on in the house, and they see a set of red glowing eyes at the window. This has happened so many times. I've heard so many reports of people saying that they see red eyes outside their window, and several of them go into actually seeing the details of the face of this big dog thing at their window. I can't imagine that. that would scare me. They have, their heads are massive dog heads. Their teeth are much bigger than a normal dog's teeth, and a lot of people report that their mouths never close where they're showing no teeth. The teeth are always exposed, and they turn back toward the back of their mouth, almost like a shark. Like a shark. Yeah. They turn backward, and there are a lot of teeth. People say more than a normal dog.
Almost looks like it has an extra set.
It's I don't know. I try to like really imagine this. My mind can't go there. It just can't. Not to see something like that real. The weird thing is that on a lot of these reports, people say that as the Dogman's leaving, or when it's standing there looking at them, it smiles. Okay, not like just like a dog bearing its teeth, but this thing, they say it actually, with the eyes kind of slit and the mouth turns up, it actually smiles at you. And it is the most evil grin that they have ever seen, or they could ever imagine. Dogs, are not, you see dogs, see the little pit bulls, and they're all happy, and sometimes they smile, but dogs are not supposed to smile like that. They're not. I wouldn't even imagine a werewolf smiling like that. I've never seen that. So that to me is one of the most startling things about these encounters, and probably the thing that throws me off the most is, why are they smiling? What would they do that for?
Why does the Joker smile every time he's about to get into something? You know what I mean? Like, something's going to happen, and hey,
because I can't imagine it would be something like, okay, I'm trying to be your friend. Like, let me terrify you and then smile at you to make it okay. I can't. There's no way. There's just no way.
Right.
I can't wrap my mind around that one. But the body on these things, and it varies. There are some differences in the body.
Well, why don't we give some... yes, Judy, so you can pretty much Google Dogman sightings, and you'll find just about anything you could possibly find out about a Dogman on Google, on YouTube. There's not too much on YouTube about it. It's more Bigfoot than anything. Yeah. But
YouTube has a little, but not as much as, I don't think as much as they should. But
to give you an idea how big this thing could get, I remember a story that we listened to about an account of a Dogman, about a guy who was driving a tractor trailer down this road, and make a long story short, as he's driving down the road, the Dogman's head was level The top of the head was level with the top of the window on his tractor trailer, on his passenger side window.
Yeah.
And he pulled a pistol out and shot it. So he went to go back and find it, and evidently it was gone.
It was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't know if it dragged itself off or if something came and carried it away. I don't know. But
it was running beside his truck.
It was running beside the truck.
He was not going that fast at that time, but it was running on 2 legs beside his truck.
So when we say 2 legs, for people that have dogs, they'll understand what we're talking about, or have had dogs. 9 times out of 10, these creatures have haunches. They're not just straight legs. But I mean, look at your dog's hind legs. That's what they look like when they walk. Sometimes they do have normal legs.
Very few accounts.
But that's a different breed, subset, or whatever you want, of Dogman.
And also their paws, where they would have their paws on their haunches, it's actually elongated like a foot. So it's as if they have some sort of human aspect to their feet and toes, instead of just paws and little digits, but actual toes, which is again, that's a weird mix of human and dog that I really have a hard time wrapping my head around. The weird thing is too, and this is what another thing that throws me off, is the fact that many of these beings have shoulders. They actually have shoulders and arms, a chest, a chiseled human form.
From the waist up, it's all human minus the head.
Yeah, it's very tapered waist.
Yeah.
You sit and try to imagine a dog with shoulders. There are some reports where they have, it's the kind of the front facing, front legs of a dog. They're standing up, but they have their hands kind of hanging down in front of them, or not hands, but paws hanging down in front of them. And there are actually, if you get a book there's a book called The Dogman of Michigan by Linda Godfrey. And I'll go back and make sure the title was right. But if you look up Linda Godfrey, there are several books she has. But she describes both types of Dogman as far as the shoulders and no shoulders go. But they're very big. They're very muscular. They're, for all intents and purposes, a werewolf. Yeah. I think minus the changing.
So here's a little interesting thing that we've actually been talking about and researching as we're looking in Dogman. Judy says, watch Nat Geo. When they go into Egyptian crypts, you can see some graphics of that sort of thing. Yeah, that's one of their gods, or
Anubis.
Yeah, Anubis.
Yeah.
He was who knows? I mean, geez, Bigfoot could go. Bigfoot. Dogman could go that far back.
Strangely, a lot of people have reported that
Anubis looking.
It's an Anubis looking, kind of more instead of more German Shepherd or wolf-like as far as the appearance goes. It's more sleek and almost Doberman looking. Yeah. So people have reported it looking a bit like what Anubis looks like, from the Egyptian tombs and drawings from all of that. So that's another thing to take into account. Does it go back that far? Is it connected to the Egyptians? Has it been around that long? It's interesting once you start to dig into it. But all in all, this thing is like nothing you've ever seen before. I don't know how people see this and go on with life as usual, like their normal lives, because that's got to change you. Just seeing something like that has got to completely turn your world upside down. And what you believe and not believe. The reports too that you hear are all so similar. They're all so, very much the same. A lot of people see these things on the side of the road. They dart out in front of their car. they're just standing there. A lot of people see them at their windows. And I cannot imagine looking out my window and seeing it. How do you reconcile that in your head?
Right. So let's move forward to some of the abilities that Dogman has. One of them is incredible speed. Another one is he likes to dart out in front of cars. Mm-hmm. Typical dog, I guess. He exceptional hearing, smell.
Right, of course.
Night vision, I guess. He
Yeah.
can jump really, really high.
Yes, there was actually an account that I read. It was in between Tennessee and Kentucky, which oddly enough is where the LDL is.
Judy says I'm pulling my shade down.
I've heard some stories about things like that, but this one account was between Kentucky and Tennessee. It was, I think back in the 70s. And this man who was young at the time, and he just got in his first car. It was loud, it was an old muscle car. He loved it. But back then in that area, there was nothing, miles of nothing, and dirt roads everywhere. Mm-hmm. So one night, it's about 2:00 in the morning, he's driving from his house to his grandparents because he's going to be over there for a few days. And it's in the summer, late spring, early summer. So he's driving down these miles and miles and miles of dirt roads. His car is, loud muscle car. He's got the windows down. He's enjoying the night. The moon's full. And he's driving, and out of his peripheral on his left side, he sees there's fields on both sides. It's a mountainous kind of area. He sees something, a dark mass, and it seems to be keeping up with his car. And it starts to get closer and closer to his car. And he's going about 55, he said, on this road. And he looks over, and this mass is coming toward him diagonal to his car. He looks over, and it's several yards away still. And he sees this thing that looks like a giant dog. It's black. It's got red glowing eyes. This thing is keeping up with him and running toward the area where he's headed to in the road. And he is stunned, of course. He goes, keeps going, and he actually speeds up. This thing runs, and it leaps over his car into the field on the other side without missing a beat. He said he hauled ass and took off, went home, and, went to his grandparents' house, and he never wanted to think about it again. I mean, that's speed. That is absolute speed, and the ability to jump like that. There are reports of these things jumping up in trees and holding on. To scare you, to get away from you. I don't know.
There was actually a report within, I'm just throwing some time in there, for about 5 years. I think it was less than that, about, 20 or 30 minutes from here, of a Dogman getting hit. The guy hit it, not sure what it was, looked in his rear view, saw that it was a creature on the side of the road, and went back to his house to get the shotgun or the rifle, whatever the case may be, to turn around, to go back to the animal to put it down. He didn't want the animal to suffer, but by the time he got there, it was gone. But what he remembers was a big, large, dog-like creature.
Yeah. He actually did get out of his car. He said it was probably 300 to 400 pounds, which would make it smaller.
It would be a baby.
Yeah, but that it did have, even though he had hit it, it had red glowing eyes.
So Shay Carroll in chat says, have either of you encountered one before? It's funny that you say that. Okay, now I'm just going to say we don't know what we encountered because when it happened, we couldn't see it. We were in one of our areas, Area 1, which is about 5 minutes that way. And literally. And we love to go out in the middle of the night, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, stupidly walk around aimlessly. And
you'd like to do that.
And see what happens. It's part of the research process. And we walked down to this one area, went up, and we weren't going out there for any Bigfoot or anything like that. Where we
Yeah, I think we were going out there to check on
just
some stuff.
see what was happening.
Yeah.
And so we went out there, did a little recording, and that's when things kind of started getting a little weird. We heard a tree break.
A big break.
A big crack. We talked about this in the last...
on our last show we did.
On our last show. So on our way out, just to narrow the story down a little bit, we come to this one river where you cross over a little man-made dirt rock bridge, whatever it is, and you start going up, and then there's a big rock, and then it starts going up again. As soon as we got right to around that big rock, I had my video camera going, and we were walking, we were discussing things.
We're actually discussing Dogman.
Was it Dogman or was it Bigfoot?
It's Dogman.
All right.
Every time I do that,
So, on the way out, all of a sudden we hear the most guttural growl that you would ever imagine. It wasn't a bear. It was January, so they'd be hibernating. It wasn't a coyote, because they're too wussy to sound like that. It wasn't a cougar, mountain lion, whatever you want to call it. No. And it wasn't a bobcat.
No.
Because those are roughly the animals that we have in this area.
Yeah.
So when it happened, she said, nope. No, first you said, did you hear that? And I said, yeah.
You said, did you hear that? I said, yep. And you said, what was that? I said,
she knows the story better than I do.
I remember it. Trust me, it's embedded.
So anyways, she took off. Both my ankles are junk. They hurt. I got tendonitis in the damn things. I can't keep up to her. I'm like, I heard it. But when I heard it, the sound like hit me on the side of the head. It was weird though. It was just, I don't know what it was.
A lot of vibratory bass sound from it on. Maybe we were talking about this last week. Maybe infrasound type stuff.
Maybe.
I don't know what it was. I know it was a growl. I know it was a really scary growl.
The only way I can really describe it, it sounded very demonic. If I had to give it a sound name, it would sound demonic.
It did, and I know a little. Yeah. It did. That's it. It really did. That in itself was enough to cause me to walk very quickly.
Run.
No, I was walking because in my mind I was saying, don't run because your food. Right now I felt like dinner.
Well, here was the thing. I spent enough time in the woods to know that you don't run when you're confronted with something like this.
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
You start getting chased and you turn into food.
Yeah.
Because what do predators go off of? Movement, right?
Yes.
As soon as you run,
I was moving.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, no, stop,
Wait,
slow down.
slow down.
No,
I'm like,
no.
Slow down.
Not slowing. No.
Can you slow down, please?
No.
Please slow down.
That was out of the question.
I'm like this. Babe.
That's exactly what happened. And I said no.
Because I'm carrying the backpack with everything in it, all the equipment, and it just, I was dying. It was January, and I'm sweating.
I was still not stopping, and he's like, "Come on, you gotta just wait. What is this? I wonder what it was." I was like, "I don't want to talk about this until we get to the car.
Let's see what happens."
And I was like, "Nope, I'm not talking about it till we get to the car."
Dude,
I didn't want to even.
I was holding on to the back of her jacket, right, and she was dragging me up the hill the whole way there. No lie. So
it was enough, and I'm pretty good in the woods.
Yeah.
I don't scare. I don't spook.
Yeah.
You know I don't. Like, we're out there a lot, and I don't react to stuff and freak out. But that one got me, and I don't know why. But there's no reason for that growl to have come from the space that we were in at that moment. There's just no reason for it. I can't find a reason for it.
So the next day we went back.
Yeah.
We tried going, because it sounded like it came from about 40 to 50 yards, we thought.
See, I thought
at first
less than that, but...
At first I thought it was across the river and up the hill and through the woods. No, I'm just kidding. So we thought it was over the river, up the hill, and behind a big rock. So...
It's nice to know, isn't it, Judy?
So when we went back to try and recreate it, to see about how far away it was, Cindy would go out, way out, and try to talk to me, just to kind of gauge it a little bit. And I said, nope. And she got closer and closer and closer. We ended up figuring, 20 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Really,
yards,
really close.
20 yards or 20 yards? I think
less than 20 yards.
I think it was just under 20 yards. So, it was crazy.
You know, when stuff like this happens, first of all, you know, we're not jumping to conclusions. We're not taking it lightly. And we do go back and we really try to pull it apart and really, really get in and research it and kind of try to figure it out. Try to figure out some kind of source or something, because, I mean, we've done this. We've, you know, I heard something one time, I got it on video, thought it was some sort of monster, but it was actually a blue heron. Yeah. So, you know, we debunk as much as we can, and I don't want to believe in something that's not real and that's, you know, something else. So we did try to go and figure this out, and I don't know, I'm at a loss for it, but I do know that I left out of the woods that night feeling like I cannot believe what I just heard. It was that startling where you just can't believe, like, oh my gosh, did I really hear that? But you know you heard it. And especially when you've got the person next to you who can back it up and heard the exact same thing. Because we didn't say what we heard. He said, did you hear that? I said, yep.
And then I said, you heard a growl? She goes, yep. Yeah, she's already halfway up the hill.
Yep. I have enough experience. I know when you hear a growl, it's time to go. It's time to go. Because that's not a nice growl. That's not a hello, how are you? That's to get the hell out of here.
Oh, yeah.
And I was getting the hell out.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. But there is another experience that we had. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about this one.
In fact, when we talk about this one, we might want to play that audio after.
What audio?
Do we have it? No, I'll look it up on my phone. Because I'd like to get the sound from that video.
Okay.
So we were we're going to call this Area 3. We were there just hiking up the trail because we wanted to go. Actually, we were, interestingly enough, we were there to do a little bit of paranormal stuff.
Which time?
The first.
Okay.
The first that we really went hiking in.
Okay.
So we are, again, because I talk a lot when we're hiking, and I talk a lot about the strange and the unknown. And John will tell you, it's a consistent thing.
Huh?
Me talking about.
I don't know, huh?
Yeah. Okay. So, I happen to be speaking about Dogman, of all things. And I know this is like, oh, silly coincidence. This is not, I don't know. But we're walking up this one area on this hill, on this path that is not used very often. It's probably, 10:30, 11 o'clock maybe?
In the morning, yeah.
Yeah, in the morning. Yeah. It's daytime.
It was about 11, close to the 11 o'clock side, yeah.
And no joke, guys, and this is a very rural area, mountains everywhere. On the other side of the road, mountains. And no joke, it stopped us in our tracks. This howl. This deep, really long, drawn out, rise and fall howl.
I mean, no human can do that.
No.
I mean, not even an opera singer.
And we've heard other strange things in this area.
But, I mean, I sound like a teenage wolf doing that. This was just so guttural and crackly and deep, and it was ridiculous.
But we
again stopped us right in our tracks.
It was. I can't explain that one either. We don't ever like to jump to conclusions and say, oh, this is what it is, or, you know, we know for a fact that it's a Dogman or that it's a Bigfoot. We don't know, but whatever that noise was, when you're used to hearing things in the woods and you hear something that doesn't fit.
So I'll just throw this in there. I don't mean to cut you off. So after we heard the sound, I never yelled at this lovely woman next to me ever. But as soon as it happened, I said to her, "Are you recording?" She said no, but she kept babbling on about the sound and everything else. I'm like, all right, well, get the voice recorder going. And she said, blah, 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 just kept going and go, did you hear that? that sounded like a dog, man. Did you hear that? I'm like, are you recording? She's like, no. I'm like, well, get the freaking voice recorder going, will you? Anyways, so as I turn after we get it going, because I had everything. I had the backpack, I had the car on my shoulder, everything. I was carrying it all up the hill because, she's cracking the whip. And as I turned and I looked up the hill, no joke, I saw two somethings. I don't know what it was. I'm a Yankee boy down in the South. I have no idea what the creatures down here look like or what I'm even up against. And I see two somethings run away. Now, they very well could have been turkeys. It very well could have been wild hogs because the ground was all torn up. It could have been turkeys because the ground and the sides of the road were all torn up. But right after that howl, two things took off. And it was kind of crazy. Shay says, are you sure it wasn't the Easter Bunny? It could have been.
I don't know. I'm looking at a sound I really want you guys to hear because this is pretty close to what we heard here. And I've got it pulled up. Let me see if I can do this.
Background noise as I can.
You don't have to go close. It'll pick it up, trust me.
I'm going to go close. Okay, here we go. Bear with us for 2 seconds. I really want you guys to hear this.
So coming from here.
Okay.
Does that sound like a dog to you? That's one big dog.
Okay,
It's
so
not
you
a
get the
movie,
idea.
just so you know, J-Ron, it's not a movie.
No, that is actually someone who breaks things down and does audio analysis on different recordings and audio bites of supposed cryptids. So
The funny thing is, when you watch that clip, that was in Ontario, Canada.
it was.
So there is another sound that goes along with that was actually down here in Georgia. They both sound the same, but the duration of the howl is different.
Yeah.
And he goes on to say that we don't all sound the same, basically.
Yeah, so they're not going to all sound the same.
Each one of these cryptids, they may be the same cryptid, but they're not going to sound the same.
Just like dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
But here's the kicker, guys. The audio clip that was recorded in Georgia that he's speaking about, that sounds very much like this one. That audio clip
is about what we heard.
It is, not only is it very close to what we heard, but it is very close to the area
where we were.
That we call Area 3, yeah.
When
call it a coincidence.
Yeah, the howl we were just discussing when we were walking into the Area 3 was actually the same sound, and it was in the same area that we were at. So,
which also has possible ties, to the Mayan people.
Mm-hmm.
Another interesting tidbit.
Right.
And that is a whole other rabbit hole we will not go down tonight.
Maybe another day.
But, it's... it's very interesting whatever this is has a lung capacity that is just, that there's nothing to compare it to. That's well over the sound that any dog, any known dog, any wolf or coyote can make.
Just because we were doing a lot of research yesterday, a lot of research today, dogs, coyotes, and bears all have their own kind of frequency when they make a noise. A bear was kind of straight up and forward. It just comes out like a big old grunt, kind of like me when I wake up in the morning. And coyotes and wolves, I think it was wolves.
Yeah, have wolves, a rise in
they have bands.
They do.
And they keep the same band at the same frequency. It drops up and down here and there a little bit. But very
slight.
But the bands are just so solid. And this had bands in it, but they were short. They were shorter bands.
Yeah,
they had 3 bands. A wolf has, I don't know, man. A pack of wolves had what?
10 or 12.
10 or 12 different kinds of bands, and it was crazy.
This thing has such a big, when you look at the audio, when you're analyzing it, the waves, this is these big bursts, and it's well beyond what any of these other animals are even capable of.
Right.
The frequency is just astounding. And the thing is that in that recording, this thing was pretty far away.
Oh yeah,
The original recording.
Yeah, what you're hearing is something that's been amplified several times.
It has been amplified.
Because if you watch the original video, you can hear how far away it is, and how far away it is, and then how close it gets.
And it's still really, really, the recording with the phone, and you can hear it very, very well, even though this thing is pretty far away.
Yep.
And it just sends chills up your spine. It does. I've heard a lot of reports of children who encounter these things, and you think, okay, that a child, they would be a little more calm, benevolent to they frighten children just as much, if not more than adults. At their windows, reports of them reaching through windows to try to get cribs. A lot of reports of children in the middle of the night seeing these things, completely freaking out. And some parents have actually still seen these dogmen at their windows of their children's rooms when they come in the door, especially in rural areas. There was one account in New York, upstate New York, where the man ended up eventually moving out of the house because this thing had terrorized them so much. It had actually busted the window to his infant's room and tried to take the child out the window.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get any scarier than that. He had such an unbelievable encounter with this thing that I can't imagine that happening. He came to blows with it. He and his neighbor did, and they were on a side by side, trying to get out of the woods away from this thing, and actually shot it, and it had little effect on it. Mm-hmm. And it did chase them out of the woods, and it nearly ended their lives. At least he felt that was the case. Really scary. They're not out here to be your friend, and they're not out here to look majestic. They want to scare you.
Yep.
They want to terrify you, and I think they're pretty good at what they do.
Yeah.
I know it would scare me. We talked about that last week too. We're out looking for proof or signs of Sasquatch, or
which we haven't found
whatever.
any yet.
No, but
thank you. That's the first time I got her to agree to it.
To agree to what?
Saying no, but
no to what?
Finding evidence of it.
No, not anything hardcore.
No.
No, but I'm not out here to bring evidence to people.
I just like hearing that. That's all.
Yeah. But this is also the same person that. Anyway. So, again, when you're out there looking for Bigfoot or the Mothman or Pukwudgies, just because you're out there looking for these things does not mean you can't come into contact with a dogman. We don't get to pick and choose our cryptids, people. We don't get to decide that we're going to look for one and not the other. It doesn't work that way.
Just like we don't get to decide what happens to our life when we step out the door.
So we don't get to decide which cryptid we come into contact with when we step into the woods. Mm-hmm. Although these things have been seen in rural, not just rural areas, but in suburban areas too. So, yeah. We do have some personal accounts that we're going to go over here in a little bit.
That's right.
So we'll do that in a few minutes, but there are some really good resources if you're interested in finding out more about Dogman. I'm one of them because I'm a wealth of knowledge when it comes to cryptids and Dogman in particular, because he's one of my favorites. And, you know, John doesn't share that. He's in the Mothman crew.
Dude, Mothman is like cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I don't know. I happen to think that Dogman's cooler. If you guys,
I ain't
you guys
gonna lie.
need to vote in chat.
I ain't gonna lie. Dogman is pretty cool,
He's freaking awesome.
but Mothman is more mysterious.
Okay, you guys, let's get it. We need a show of hands in chat. We need to let you vote here. Dogman or Mothman?
Yep, Dogman or Mothman.
Yeah, Dogman or Mothman. It's up for a vote. We'll see.
So why don't we let you guys sit on that for a minute? We're gonna take a little break. All right, and we'll be right back. So anyways, we're back. I just want to give a big shout out to Digital Mike over at SoundCloud.com. You can find him there. That was one of his digital.
Incredibly talented.
Yeah.
Incredibly talented.
Young kid. Look him up.
Yeah, and we love to, share his stuff and get it out there. It's
Yeah.
Awesome. We want to also, as we get into this segment, welcome one of our researchers and
I'm giving that one.
Resident troublemaker.
Yes, I would. She does help with the research.
Because I do none.
She puts up with my obsession and
I'm the assistant.
ridiculousness.
I'm
Yeah.
the assistant.
So, Lily.
Hi, how are you?
So she's going to join us for this part of the show, and she is pretty knowledgeable about cryptids, and she's had
I
some
grew up with
experiences.
cryptids.
Yes, you did. I don't know how that happened, but you did.
Who knows?
But again, before we went on break, I was saying I wanted to give you guys a few resources to learn other than myself. Can't be just me. If you go on YouTube and listen to a few podcasts, there's one that is Dogman Encounters Radio with Vic Cundiff. He every week uploads accounts. He actually speaks to these people and interviews them, and they firsthand relate their account to him, and you can hear those. They're really fascinating. I've learned a lot listening to those. There also is a show called Venomous Fringe on YouTube too, so look that up, because they don't just talk about Dogman, which is, I'm pretty sure, one of their favorite cryptids too, but they speak about many cryptids, so that's another one to really enjoy. So if you want to go find out more about these creatures and others, join them on YouTube and give them a like and follow on YouTube. They're doing a good thing. We're next going to get into some accounts, because we've taught you a little bit about Dogman, but we need to give you some stories about Dogman and the encounters that some people have had with him.
But before we do that, if you have your own story, you want to make a comment, have any questions, and you want to be on there, 1-706-522-1758. You give us a call, and we'll have you on the air.
You can also email us at gacryptocrew@gmail.com. We really want to hear these stories, guys. We want to be interactive with you guys. We want to know what's going on, how you feel, what you're thinking about these things, whether you believe it or whether you don't. So give us a line and let us know what's going on. We do have 2 accounts that were sent to us that are personal accounts of people that...
Do you want me to read the first one?
Before, I'm going to read a general account first.
Okay.
And it's one that is from a researcher named Linda Godfrey, who was she really broke in to the scene with this whole Dogman thing. And props to her, because she has done a lot as far as writing accounts and collecting accounts physically of Dogmen all over this country. And she's really gotten into the meat of the entire thing, and talked about similarities with the accounts and areas and different things, and tied to the fact that with the Native American aspect, a lot of the encounters are at cemeteries or hallowed native ground or native burial mounds, things like that, near water. And so there are a lot of little things that crop up in a lot of these accounts, but we want to get into this account just because, these are creepy accounts. And again, this is one that happened to a child, so I'm going to read this real quick, and it's
Is it the same thing?
no, it's something different. So I'm gonna read this one to you. It's pretty scary, I think. It was summertime. My childhood had a great group of very normal everyday kids, and we played war a lot with each other. Normally about 6 of us played together through the day, with kids rotating back home for chores, etc. This particular Saturday, we decided to play war behind an Alto Elementary School in the woods and a creek area. Anyway, I was trying to get in the woods ahead of other kids before they showed up to have the advantage. We were using squirt guns and water balloons. It was 10 a.m. As soon as I ran into the woods, which I knew very well, this was my stomping grounds, literally, I felt uneasy, like I was being watched. Not by a friend, either. This feeling lingered and got stronger and stronger, like whatever was watching me was moving closer. In this small stretch of woods, there was a creek behind me that ran the stretch of the woods. There was a train trestle railroad tracks as well. I was crouched in the tall grass facing the playground and the road when I heard a splash, and a very fast movement went on behind me. I jumped because I was startled at the height and suddenness of the shadow flashing behind me. When I whipped around, I saw a large, black-gray, wolf-like creature that was running down the creek bed bank alongside the creek behind me. It was shifting from 4 to 2 legs and jumped after about 3 seconds into the brush, away from me, into the trees. Into the trees, people. Not into the bushes, into the trees. It seemed to have disappeared, and I didn't hear it anymore. I was a country woods kid. I had no comprehension other than fear for what I saw at that moment. I ran home, which wasn't far, about a quarter of a mile. I didn't tell anybody what I saw. I was afraid of being teased or made fun of about it by other people. When I ran in my house, I got to my bedroom. It had only been a few minutes, but I remember thinking it resembled the werewolves in the movie The Howling that I had seen a few years before that. It was, I guess, 7 to 8 feet. Tall and very muscular, maybe 300 pounds or more. Its head resembled a timber wolf with long canines, long clawed hands, its legs bent backward like a canine. It glanced at me. I didn't want it to see me. It didn't smell at all. Its face was not feral or ferocious. Its eyes were blue, which is interesting because I have not heard an account where there were eyes that are blue. Its presence was powerful and overwhelming. I didn't go out of my own yard for several days, which was my neighborhood friends thought was odd. I had childhood asthma though, so they assumed that it was my issue when they didn't see me much. I used that excuse when my family wondered why I was so homebound. I never told a soul what I saw for fear of not being believed. I stayed close to my friends when we played, but I didn't go close to the creek for the stretch of woods for 3 to 4 years, and I was never alone. So, as quick as that account was, and as fleeting as his sighting was, it still profoundly disturbed and affected this kid, which I guess, I mean, it's a kid, of course it's going to, but that one to me is pretty creepy. And you know, it's weird, the account of blue eyes, but I did want to make a point that it talked about, you know, the teeth, and there was something else that I was going to mention, and I can't remember what it was. The eyes, yeah. The eyes being blue is interesting.
It is.
The fact that it jumped up into the trees, that to me is astounding. So, yeah, I mean, take it for what it is, but this poor kid was pretty traumatized for several years after that. So, and we're going to, let's see, we're going to read this one. This one is from a friend of mine, actually, and one day when we were working together, we were discussing, because I just talk about this stuff, and you know, half the people I talk to think I'm crazy. The other half are like, okay, this is weird, but it's interesting. So she actually put up with all of my ranting that day, and we happened to be speaking about something, and something clicked for her. And she told me the story firsthand, but I asked her to write in and to let us read the story on the show, and she agreed wholeheartedly, which is great. Thank you, Angela, for that. But I'm gonna let John read this one to you.
I can't read.
I'm gonna let John read this one to you, and let's get your take on it. It's pretty interesting in the fact that, you know, it's a first-hand account. It was very exciting, so I appreciate it again, Angela. We're gonna read this off.
When my almost 21-year-old twin boys were about 6 or 7, I remember one night they came running into my room, all excited about something they'd seen out of their window. It was pitch black out, but they said all they could see was red eyes. Of course, I went to investigate. I saw nothing, but they were absolutely insisted red eyes right in the middle of their bedroom window, which was pretty tall. I'm 5'2", and from the outside of the trailer, I could have seen into their room without a short ladder. So whatever it was taller than me. I never knew what they saw, but I never doubted that it was something. They were too believable. Over 15 years later, and I can still hear the excitement and fear in their little voices. But because nothing was there, all I could do was assure them that it was gone. Could it have been a Dogman? They don't know. This was in Orangeburg, South Carolina, in the middle of the state, about 2007, 2008.
Okay, so there are reports of Dogmans, I'm doing Bigfoots and Dogmans. Dogmen being sighted, not a distance from there, but not very, very far away. So I thought that was interesting. The thing that caught her attention was me speaking about the accounts of the red eyes with these things. And that's what got her and got us talking about it. So I was really fortunate to be able to talk to her about it and maybe make some sense of what happened when her kids were small. So we appreciate that. We appreciate the story.
Thanks, Angela.
Loved it. Thank you so, so much. And if you have anything else anymore, anybody, you guys write in. Let us know, because we're all about sharing these stories. It's really what we want to do. The sightings are not far from us. They're
really not.
They're not.
Now, just to give you an idea, we're at the top of the state. We can touch Tennessee and North Carolina in a few minutes. So, and all these accounts that everybody has, especially Area 1, 2, and 3, they're like right around us. If you will, we're in a dish, and we're in the center of the dish. So
there's one account, and this one is pretty terrifying, of a man, his girlfriend, and his girlfriend's daughter, and it's actually not far from Area 3 as well.
This one?
And I just happened to know.
Okay.
It's just one I'm throwing out there. I just happened to actually realize the fact that
I didn't get the memos.
No, he never does. But this account happened not far from. It really, actually, essentially in Area 3, and I just realized that as we're sitting here. It was an account of these 3 people. It was a young girl, her mom, and her mom's boyfriend, and they were looking for a hiking trail to a particular trail in Area 3. And they ended up not knowing where it was and went down this road to find the trail, and it was an old logging road that they ended up going down. And when they got to the end of the road, there was an old parking area and a trail that looked pretty grown up. And there was trash and stuff on the trail. It looked very unkempt. But they decided to walk down anyway since they'd come all that way. And they went about 3 or 4 miles. And 3 or 4 miles doesn't seem long, but when you're in a compact car and you're on a dirt road, it's some of these roads around here, these dirt roads, they're not for cars like that.
Nope, they run right into big creeks and everything.
They do.
And they make your car stall.
Yes, they do.
Yep. And then you got to forge another one because you don't realize that one is connected.
That's completely irrelevant
And then
to
I
the
have
story.
to get out
I'm sorry. I just
completely irrelevant
and move
to
rocks
this.
with water up to my knees.
Don't listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So anyway,
see Bigfoot.
don't. So anyway, that might have happened. It might not have. So they're on the trail walking, and the guy stops to relieve himself. But the entire time, the daughter and the mom are really freaked out, feeling like something's watching them and hearing things. So long story short, they get back in the car. It started to get dark. A storm was coming, so the rain came down. It was dark. They're trying to go out on this road 3 or 4 miles in, and it's scary already because they're not necessarily familiar with the woods. So they're going out, and the man, there's a deluge there. It's raining. It's just bad. Thunder and lightning. And in the lightning, he looks down to the side of his car, and crawling just below the window, like a spider crawl, is this thing. And he looks at it, and it's a dog thing.
Wags.
Huge, giant, massive dog, muscles, shoulders, and it looks up at him. He doesn't say anything. He's just wanting to go faster. He's freaking out, but doesn't want to say anything, doesn't want to scare the daughter. But the daughter looks over out the window, and the damn thing looks over and smiles. And she completely loses her mind. The woman, they all freak out. This thing keeps crawling beside the car. It finally stands up and runs off into the woods. So they've got like 2 more miles to go on this road. It does not pop up again, but they saw it that one time, and that was enough for them. And it completely affected them for days after, weeks after that. So one of the big things that people say is that after they've had an encounter is they have nightmares, and really vivid, horrible nightmares for a long time after. So that is an account that was very close to Area 3. So yeah, they're in Georgia.
Awesome.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
close to Area 3.
Oh, no way.
So we're going to read another account, and this was one that was sent to us from a friend of mine via Facebook. It was someone who is a friend of hers that was gracious enough to share this with us, and we're excited about that. So I'm going to get in here and I'm going to read this one.
Read it to it while you're close to the thing.
Everything has a meaning, and things happen to people for reasons many don't know. Life throws at us many tales that may make others look at us differently. Many tales and legends passed on to generations tell these stories for a reason. So if it happens to you, you personally don't feel alone. I feel at ease as ever to share a legend I never knew about until I became an adult and the experience happened to me. Thankfully, I do not feel alone when sharing my experience. Many have traveled down this narrow road that has hills with a long line of trees that give the unrelaxing feeling as something can jump out at any time, whether it being deer, rabbits, raccoons, or any other various kinds of animals. There have been a lot of fatal car crashes along this road as it winds into a sharp turn. If a driver is not careful, it will take their life. Between Evansville, Wisconsin, oddly enough not very far from Beast of Prey Road, and Elkhorn, Wisconsin, half mile off Highway 14, lies Weary Road. I've always heard weird things and had weird feelings going down this road, as my parents drove that way to my aunt's, when I was a child. I would look out the windows down the line of trees into the darkness, not knowing if I would see yellow glowing eyes or something else. I grew up and began driving myself around. My friends in high school lost their lives on Weary Road, so the research on that road began. If you get off Weary Road and get onto Highway 14 into Evansville, there are farms. There are farms.
My rookie mistake.
There are farms in the beginning, and about a half mile down there are cemeteries that have been there since the first settlers of the town. Again, Weary Road is a half mile away from Highway 14. Lost my place. 14 has many deaths due to the poor driving or not paying attention. Many reports will say that cell phones, drinking, and speeding were the faults of those accidents. I've seen fresh tire marks made from an accident that happened the night before I was there. It didn't make any sense to me as to why those were there if speeding was involved, or maybe an animal had gotten in the way. This is an event that happened to me that would change my life forever. I'm a very alert, defensive driver when it comes to the rules of the road. My girlfriend at the time was a horrible driver, and she would just look straight ahead the whole time, going down Highway 14, just looking deep into the darkness. If a deer would pop out of nowhere, surely my girlfriend would hit it, not knowing. So me, being who I am, a backseat driver, and being on the lookout, not knowing anything about the road or the accounts of the unknown. Many claim that a woman in white, here's the woman in white, in a white dress, walking down the road, but I'd never seen it. And that's not what I saw, because it was on the other end of Weary Road. As we were scanning the darkness at about 12:30 on a Saturday night, there was a full moon. In the corner of my eye, out came a long, white, dirty-haired creature running on all fours. It ran out into the road from the far left side of the lane right into the driver's side headlights. I braced for the impact, tucking my knees to my chest and screaming to the top of my lungs with my girlfriend. She swerved into the other lane and pulled off on the side of the road. We both were in such shock. We sat in the car, real quick, looked at each other. I said, I think that was a man that looked like a dog. There was no damage to her or the truck and no trace of roadkill. The lights on the truck made what I saw so bright, and it had an aura around itself. We were both so freaked out and stayed silent the rest of the way home. I went into the house and then proceeded to learn about skinwalkers and Dogman. I soon found a picture that we had both said is what we saw. Having not only myself and another person with me at the time would be my alibi, people would not believe me. Even to this day, I have dreams of Dogman and that experience. I live in another part of the country now where claims of Bigfoot and Dogman are everywhere. I don't feel crazy anymore, and I'm more interested than ever. I want to befriend a Dogman and find him again so badly. I began doing walking on a trail down where Oklahoma City, in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. We were walking toward nightfall, and out of nowhere on the trail, a Dogman ran across, asking so many questions to native people of this land that live currently about Dogman, and they are beginning to shine light onto maybe why I see Dogman. Hoping that this short story of mine is the beginning of more to come as I unlock the meaning of Dogman. Is he a friend or foe? Does he cause accidents because of chasing down cars? Dogman Native American or not to this world? So many unexplained questions that will never be answered unless you are the person that Dogman wants. Very good.
Well, I haven't seen one yet, so he doesn't want me. And if he does, I got to make sure he gets his shots.
Well, the interesting thing about that, and thank you so much for that story. That is an amazing story. Yeah. Good night, Shay. That was a wonderful story and very creepy story. Yeah. Thank you so much for sending that in.
Matt said it was a squirrel that ran across the road.
Squirrel. That's me. That's totally me when I'm researching. I swear. I'm so ADHD when I'm often, okay, like I'm doing now. What I was going to say is the interesting thing about that story, I think, that reflects other stories that I've read in other accounts, is the fact that not only the dream part, someone come get him, not only the dream part, but the fact that, you know, there's so much of this lines up with other stories, that running out into the road, the scene at night on a you know, rural road, the nightmares afterward. That one is what sticks with me, because it's not, that happens frequently where people do have nightmares.
It's the same side effects.
It's interesting, and not only that, but people do say, and this, you know, people who have seen it once do tend to see it again. Even in different parts of they can move away and go other places, and they will have encounters again. It's almost as if, and it's an odd thing, but it's almost as if once one knows you, they all know you. And I could say that about something else, which is kind of frightening, because that makes me think that maybe they're tied to something that is less than benevolent.
It's like they're familiar, a familiar
it's
thing.
Really interesting. I don't know. It's but thank you for that story. We do appreciate it. That's a great one.
So that's essentially what we want to do too. Towards the end of the show, she has stories of different encounters with cryptids, or it could be the same one over and over again.
Yeah.
You know,
send us a story, and we'll do a show around whatever cryptid you send us. Like we'll do a show about that cryptid, and we'll learn more.
Even if it's not, and you think it is, we'll still do the show anyways.
Yeah. And we just scratched the surface. There's so much to talk about. The different, historically different stuff.
So there was another, I remember hearing these stories because I fall asleep listening to them, and not because I turned them on. But there was some stories that I've heard, maybe you've even talked about them as well, that it might be the same one you touched on earlier. I know I'm babbling here, but where they shot a Dogman. These two guys shot a Dogman when they were driving or something.
They were in a side-by-side, yeah.
Side-by-side.
You went about 45 miles an hour.
And when they shot the Dogman was quadrupedal or bipedal?
It was bipedal.
All right, so
it was keeping up with him, yeah.
So for the people that don't know what bipedal means, for the future listeners, bipedal means two legs. All right, so he's running 45 miles an hour, chasing the side-by-side. Dude turns around with a shotgun, kaplow! Hits the Dogman, blows his pectoral muscles off.
One of his pectorals, yeah.
It's flopping around in the breeze, and the dog is still chasing him. It was like it didn't even faze him.
And and these same guys, when they first saw this thing, because they had really been it had been plaguing this one guy. He took his friend out just to go kind of track because he owns a lot of acreage.
Yeah.
They both did. And when they went out, they saw this thing standing. And the creepy thing is, when it was on all fours, as a dog would be, and it went to stand up from being quadrupedal to bipedal, and when it did, they described the popping and cracking of the bones. It was the most god-awful sound they had ever heard. But when these things do this, and when they switch from one to the other, many people report hearing this horrible sound like breaking, cracking bones, which leads you to believe that they're, an average dog can't stand up on its hind legs for any amount of time. It's not a natural position for it, but it's almost like they're switching from one natural position to the other, and their bones have got to like switch, pop into different. I don't know. I don't know even beginning to how to explain or describe that.
I don't think anyone does, honestly.
That idea is that's creepy. It's creepy, guys.
I'm not good with bones, so that alone would freak me out.
Oh man, that would set me off. I don't know, but yeah, these things are they're durable. I don't know. That's not a good word for them.
Not just durable,
Resilient.
They're indestructible.
I don't know about that we could go all down into, the people who believe that these things might be militarily engineered.
That was one of the things I was going to read, that some people believe that there's some scientific evidence behind DNA splicing.
Making a super soldier.
Yeah.
That would suck.
That has freaking completely backfired.
They let it go?
Or it
Completely.
escaped.
Well, there are a lot of incidents where people say that these people in black trucks have come up and confiscated all their pictures or evidence or all their trail camera, the SD cards and everything of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And some people report them going into the woods and
Never coming out.
well, some people I guess have, but no, that these things are gone after that. I know there was one report where a guy said these men came and he had seen this thing, and that they used some sort of weird gun, and whatever it was, it
MIB.
nearly killed his dog. He didn't hear anything, but it nearly killed his dog. Like fell on the ground.
Was it like a
and was
sound?
freaking out that he didn't hear anything. Was
Like
freaking out and just
sound?
howling and torturing his dog, and it almost killed his dog. So whatever they were using.
So they pointed it at his dog?
At the woods.
At the woods?
Yeah.
Was it like because I've seen
Some
I've
sort
seen
of
different
gun. He
videos
said.
of something that the cops are starting to use. That's
Yeah.
like big infrasound or something.
Yeah, we do
It's
use
like a
dog
big-
whistles and things.
Well, yeah.
So
So maybe something along those lines. Maybe some kind of vibration.
it has to be.
Yeah.
Which is, that's the only thing that you could come up with. But that's a whole.
Definitely
That's
possible.
It's the flip side of the
Yeah.
coin. Are these things something that the origins of it date back to, centuries,
intense.
long ago, or is it something that's been engineered? I don't know.
doubt it. There's so much that we don't know government-wise.
Well, of course, there's a whole lot we don't know.
Well, because we couldn't handle it. I mean, look what's going on now.
Yeah,
Like we'd
that's true.
freak out.
I mean, how many people want to believe that there are these monsters out there in our woods?
Evidently we do.
Well, yeah. I mean, we know what it's about. But there are 3 or 4 more reports I can think of off the top of my head that are not very far from us. So this is a hotbed for Sasquatch. Maybe it is a hotbed also for Dogman. Who knows? We might have another encounter. Can't
Maybe.
rule it out. Cannot rule it out. But the bottom line is that there are more and more sightings of these things all the time. This is not something that a lot of people know about, but people are learning about it more and more. It's becoming a little bit more mainstream, and I think that the more that it does become mainstream, that people are going to be more apt to tell their stories. And not just that, but these people don't know what they're seeing.
Yeah.
They may have seen it 50, 60 years ago and they have no idea what it was.
Right.
And so they hear these accounts now, and a lot of people are going, oh my gosh, okay, that's what I saw.
Yeah.
That's what was there.
Yeah.
It has a name. So this is actually putting a name to these things that people have seen, and I think it's therapeutic. I think it helps people.
I mean, it's just like you with the wampus, that you saw when you were a kid.
Yep.
That's kind of what got you into the whole.
It is what got me into it.
thing.
And when you kind of put two and two together and connect the dots, for a lot of people, I think that's a therapeutic thing, because they're like, hey, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
This did happen, and it validates it for them, so that, I hope that us speaking about it does that for people, at least a few, which would be great. But we don't know. We don't know what it is, but we know that there are more and more sightings all the time. And these things are something that I would not take lightly. Whether you believe in them or not, it doesn't mean that they're not out there.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a safety issue too, because we don't know what they'll do. Again.
Yeah, I mean, it's like running across a bear, but tenfold, because you don't know what their intentions could be. You don't know if they're more predatory. You don't know if they're as scared of you as you are of them.
Well, and two, every report that you come across it's not a good thing.
No, not nice.
And you don't know what you're messing with. I love it when people say, but there are no reports of people getting attacked. But again,
well, of course not.
Again, how do we know? Like, there are no reports of people being taken. How do we know they're gone?
Yeah, because you're gonna come back and tell everybody you got.
You don't know. So it's something to be mindful of. There are things that we do when we go out into the woods. I mean, we're more aware, I think, than most your average person in the woods is. We're more mindful of things. So I think that you need to be. I enjoy the woods. I love it. I wouldn't stop doing it for anything, and I'm probably not going to stop chasing cryptids for anything.
Probably not.
Even though sometimes it scares the living piss out of me.
You scare me, because you
scare
have
you?
no boundaries. you are ready. You do not care if it's coming for your throat. You're like, okay, cool.
I mean,
Hi, Dogman. What's up?
The way that I look at it is this: if you're going to do anything in this research,
you're ready to risk it all, and I'm not.
If you're not going to put yourself in it, then how are you going to learn?
No, I get that, but I don't.
I get it too. I don't.
Yeah.
I get it.
We are very different in that.
My curiosity gets the better of me.
Yeah. Oh,
and I just want to keep going.
Sure.
I want to go around that. Other,
yeah.
I do.
Definitely.
I do. That's why I have
It's
them
very
to. Well, I have them to.
Gotta put a leash on you. And
what the heck are you doing? I hear that.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing that. No, I hear that. No, we're not doing that.
Or I'll have to whistle and find out where you are when you've gone like
don't
a few yards
go
off
that.
trail.
Yeah, I go too far. Look,
Mom, I can't see you anymore. I'm right here. It's fine. Come here.
I'm just gonna walk a few hundred yards. I'll be back. Yeah,
it's called missing 411. We don't do that here.
Yeah, I mean,
tracker on
I wouldn't say I'm reckless. I'm just a little.
Oh, you're definitely
overly
reckless.
curious.
I would definitely say you're reckless. You were ready to risk it all.
I'd say overly curious.
Ready to risk it all.
I mean, I don't mind putting myself out there.
Yeah, obviously.
I'm not gonna say I'm bait, but.
Oh, come on, please.
Well, I mean, I felt like bait went that way. I'm not gonna lie. I felt like bait, but that freaked me out and made me question. Okay, do I want to keep doing this? But that faded really quickly.
If I was there, I would be gone. Y'all would have been left behind. I would have been in the car.
No, I think I would have raced you.
No, sorry. I would have been Speedy Gonzalez. So I went out of there.
But I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? Is Dogman a thing? Or is he a figment of many, many people's imagination?
I mean, it has to boil down to something, I mean, yeah, you're going to get your phony accounts and your kooks and not that we're not. But
that's true.
But you're going to get those people that just are doing it for attention, but you're going to get those people who
like the people who
genuinely have
yeah, it's like the people who video Dogman breaking into their bra.
Oh yeah,
like those people. Yes. Which we're still going to post that, guys. But, yeah, they're not seeing nothing.
No. I mean...
So many people over such a large span of time, and it's such a large...
all over the world.
All over the world.
You can't take people from from multiple continents that haven't had any contact, way, back whenever.
Yeah.
When we weren't going from continent to continent, like... with similar accounts.
Exactly.
It just doesn't make sense.
I mean,
not nothing. It can't be nothing.
The guy in Finland that's sees it on his roof, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't talk to the guy in Louisiana who thinks it was his uncle banging at his door, but it was actually a dog man or a rougarou.
Exactly.
You know, they saw the same thing, but they're so far apart and have never spoken. So yeah.
Or again, like in Egypt with the what's
Anubis.
it called? Anubis, and then here with the natives.
Yeah.
You know, that's total separation.
Yeah, you can't ignore the fact that
No.
it all kind of links together.
It all boils down to something.
It's something.
It's
Whether it
magic.
be some demonic, you know, force or
Which is possible, or just some kind of like a
bioengineered animal
or like how there are coyotes and hyenas, or how they're like
but people and like canine and
yeah, that's
Homo
too coincidental.
sapien. That's just, it's insane. Did they get the idea? Did these bioengineers get the idea from the Legend of the Werewolf, or does the werewolf derive from?
Yeah.
You know, it's a big circle. I mean, how do you know? We don't have. There's no way to prove this. But I mean, people are saying something. They have to. It's, I don't know. It's crazy. It's just crazy.
It's insane.
And the idea of seeing this thing in the dark, in the
Freaks
daylight,
me out.
whatever. It's scary. Is it scary enough to stop me from going? No, it's not.
See, no, if I saw it, I'd be, oh, I'm not going out at night anymore for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely not, and I'm packing.
Well, I think we've spoken quite a bit tonight and shared a few stories, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, because I know I certainly enjoyed it. Dogman is one of my favorite. It's got to be my second favorite cryptid. I'm not gonna lie, he's right up there on number 2. The only reason he's not number 1 is because
The Squatch.
Bigfoot will always have my heart. So, yeah. Thank you for joining us tonight, guys. Again, find us on Instagram and email us at gacryptocrew.com. Give us a story. We'd like to hear from you.
gacryptocrew@gmail.com.
gacrypto@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Want to hear more stories? Join us next week. We will be talking about the infamous Skinwalker. So if you want to know more about Skinwalker, join us in chat, call us, whatever you want to do. You know how to get in touch with us. We will talk to you soon, guys. See you next week. And just remember, absence of proof is not proof of absence.